This is an extraordinarily important case. It shows us how powerful the federal courts can be, how extreme so many of the judges now in the federal courts are, and what the stakes are for so many people. One judge in Amarillo, Texas, ruled that the approval by the FDA of mifepristone, which is one of the two drugs used in pharmaceutical abortions, which is most abortions in the United States, he ruled that the approval by the FDA over 2 decades ago turns out to have been wrong, and therefore the drug cannot be used in the United States. This doesn't just apply in Texas. It doesn't just apply in states that have banned abortion. It would apply all over the country. It's a very audacious move by one very activist and anti-abortion judge, Judge Kaczmarek, to make this ruling. An hour later, a judge in Washington State, a federal judge, ruled the opposite, said, no, the FDA can't do that. What this was designed to do, in part, is to create a difference between parts of the country's circuits. And so that makes it more likely it will head quickly to the Supreme Court. I think we are reminded, and with great clarity reminded, that the Supreme Court is a political institution. It always has been. Usually the Supreme Court hugs the middle. It usually reflects whatever the consensus is in the country, or at least sort of the governing party consensus. And in fact, at other times in the country's history, when the Supreme Court has been extreme or activist or partisan or ideological, there's often been a very significant backlash, even party mobilization and party realignment. And I think we could be seeing that today. Nowhere else in the world are there 9 unelected individuals serving for life who have this much power. We don't sit around in other places every June waiting to find out what the big rulings are going to be, like the upcoming affirmative action ruling. What are the rules going to be in our country? We give the Supreme Court this power because we accept the notion that it's above politics, that it's really acting like a court. But when the Supreme Court and the federal courts act in a political way, or seem to just make different rulings based on who the justices are, then they squander that credibility. And not surprisingly, public trust in all kinds of institutions has dropped. And during the COVID pandemic, a lot of them dropped a lot. But people have tended to trust the courts. Not anymore. Public approval and public trust of the Supreme Court in polls has plummeted. It's now at the lowest level recorded. That's a real shame, and it is a product of these extreme rulings.